Solomon builds the temple 480 years after the people of Israel left Egypt. During the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the 2nd month, the month of Ziv, Solomon began work on the temple. Inside it was 27 meters long, 9 meters wide, and 13.5 meters high. The entrance room was 4.5 meters deep and 9 meters wide as the sanctuary itself. The walls of the temple had openings in them, narrower on the outside than on the inside. Against the outside walls, on the sides, and the back of the temple, a 3-storied annex was built, each story 2.2 meters high. Each room in the lowest story was 2.2 meters wide, in the middle story 2.7 meters wide, and in the top story 3.1 meters wide. The temple wall on each floor was thinner than on the floor below, so that the rooms could rest on the wall without having their beams built into it. The stones with which the temple was built had been prepared at the quarry, so that there was no noise made by hammers, axes, or any other iron tools as the temple was being built. The entrance to the lowest story of the annex was on the south side of the temple, with stairs leading up to the 2nd and 3rd stories. So King Solomon finished building the temple. He put in a ceiling made of beams and boards of cedar. The 3-storied annex, each story 2.2 meters high, was built against the outside walls of the temple and was joined to them by cedar beams. The Lord said to Solomon, "If you obey all my laws and commands, I will do for you what I promised your father David. I will live among my people Israel in this temple that you are building, and I will never abandon them." So Solomon finished building the temple. The interior furnishings of the temple, the inside walls, were covered with cedar panels from the floor to the ceiling, and the floor was made of pine. An inner room, called the Most Holy Place, was built in the rear of the temple. It was 9 meters long and was partitioned off by cedar boards reaching from the floor to the ceiling. The room in front of the Most Holy Place was 18 meters long. The cedar panels were decorated with carvings of gourds and flowers. The whole interior was covered with cedar, so that the stones of the walls could not be seen. In the rear of the temple an inner room was built, where the Lord's covenant box was to be placed. This inner room was 9 meters long, 9 meters wide, and 9 meters high, all covered with pure gold. The altar was covered with cedar panels. The inside of the temple was covered with gold, and gold chains were placed across the entrance of the inner room, which was also covered with gold. The whole interior of the temple was covered with gold, as well as the altar in the most holy place. 2 winged creatures were made of olive wood and placed in the most holy place, each one 4.4 meters tall. Both were of the same size and shape. Each had 2 wings, each wing 2.2 meters long, so that the distance from one wing tip to the other was 4.4 meters. They were placed side by side in the most holy place, so that 2 of their outstretched wings touched each other in the middle of the room, and the other 2 wings touched the walls. The 2 winged creatures were covered with gold. The walls of the main room and of the inner room were all decorated with carved figures of winged creatures, palm trees, and flowers. Even the floor was covered with gold. A double door made of olive wood was set in place at the entrance of the most holy place. The top of the doorway was a pointed arch. The doors were decorated with carved figures of winged creatures, palm trees, and flowers. The doors, the winged creatures, and the palm trees were covered with gold. For the entrance to the main room, a rectangular door frame of olive wood was made. There were 2 folding doors made of pine and decorated with carved figures of winged creatures, palm trees, and flowers, which were evenly covered with gold. An inner court was built in front of the temple, enclosed with walls which had 1 layer of cedar beams for every 3 layers of stone. The foundation of the temple was laid in the 2nd month, the month of Ziv, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign. In the 8th month, the month of Bul, in the 11th year of Solomon's reign, the temple was completely finished exactly as it had been planned. It had taken Solomon 7 years to build it.